I called you into my office to tell you I'm putting a demerit in your permanent file.
What did I do?
Don't play dumb.
What?
You know what you did. And you'd better not do it again or the next time you're fired.
I don't know, actually. How am I supposed to know what not to do?
This discussion is over.
Alright, class, now can anyone tell me what was wrong with that exchange? Yes, you there up front.
The worker didn't apologize for the bad thing they did.
Groveling? No! Oh, wow, not even in the ballpark. You're fired. You're fired from school. Pack up your things. You there, you in the back, yes.
The boss is abusive?
Yes, that's right. Anything else, though? Anything else? Yeah, you? Mm-hmm.
The boss is gaslighting their worker.
Exactly. Now, class, I want you to tell me what you would do if you were in the situation of the worker from the video. Or if you saw one of your co-workers being treated like this by their boss, after the gaslighting and the door slamming. You.
Form a union.
I love your enthusiasm. But really the question is, what would you do? Because this is exactly how YouTube is treating us as creators, the people who give them free labor every single day.
Hi, I'm Sam. How you doing? Well, I hope. You might think I'm gonna rant about the YouTube algorithm, and yes, it's got problems. But this is about something much worse. I honestly had a difficult time sleeping the night before I wrote this because YouTube management told me publicly on Twitter that they intentionally gaslight and abuse their creators. Whoa, Sam, that's a heavy accusation. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Well, YouTube doesn't feed me. Despite their apparent love affair with Steven Crowder, YouTube doesn't like to monetize most political comedy. And I wouldn't make a video just to complain about YouTube's algorithms because everybody already knows about that. I'd rather not make this one.
You know what you get for being a hero? Nothing. Get shot at. Get a little pat on the back, blah, blah, blah. Kids don't want to talk to you. You get to eat a lot of meals by yourself. Trust me, kid, nobody wants to be that guy.
Then why are you doing this?
Because there's nobody else to do it right now, that's why.
No, I'm not going to expose a plot by YouTube executives to extort the government for a truckload of gold bullion, or solve that problem by demolishing an office building or a mile of inner-city highway. But I gotta keep your attention somehow, right? Here. Okay, now I'll explain how YouTube is likely to do that to all the hard work you give them. Mostly for free, by the way. You work for YouTube and they barely even pay you. And they're gonna blow up your channel, gaslight and abuse you, and refuse to talk to you about it. And your only hope will be to somehow make a ton of noise on Twitter or possibly Facebook. And only then, perhaps, the king may take pity on you. If you're thinking to yourself, I don't work for them, YouTube isn't my employer, in a legal sense you're right, but I'd like to draw your attention to this new series called My Job is YouTube. It's published on the YouTube Creators channel, which is part of YouTube's corporate creator outreach. So even if you don't think of yourself as working for YouTube, know that YouTube's corporate management want you to think of YouTube as a job, or at least as a job opportunity.
YouTube doing this directly hurts the people who work on their channel. And it is work. We get sent a 1099 at the end of the year. It's considered freelance work. It is a thing that I have to calculate taxes for. People who work with YouTube should not have to deal with this. This is basically the equivalent of having a hostile work environment. If you feel like your existence on a platform when you are not breaking any laws or rules, especially rules for the platform itself, is a ticking time bomb. When you feel like you existing on the platform is a grenade, that's hostile. That's not safe. That's not safe financially. That's not safe for people's mental health.
Let me start at the beginning. You may be concerned about the attempted fascist coup that happened earlier this year at the US Capitol on January 6, 2021. I noticed that a lot of people were surprised by it, even though I and a lot of other dreaded anti-fascists found it entirely predictable. And since so many people were surprised, like well-known TV news personalities, I decided part of the problem was education. Most people just have no idea what fascism is or what it looks like. So in the months since the coup, I've worked on a series called How to Spot a Nazi. Each episode explores one of the 14 points in Umberto Eco's essay, Fascism, with the recent examples of people saying the things that Eco described to teach us how to identify fascist talk. This is where YouTube's algorithms are relevant because I got this strike on the third episode on Wednesday, July 21st. The strike YouTube put on QAnon destroyed by facts and logic was for harassment and cyberbullying. Pretty weird given that they queued up the first minute of the video that was literally a raw CNN clip from January 6th. I chose that clip because it shows well-known TV news reporters talking about how shocked they are by the completely predictable and totally unsurprising attempted coup. I want to point out that nobody was allowed to see this video because of a couple of copyright claims for Colbert and Daily Show clips, which means this had to be done by YouTube, not by, say, fascists false flagging it. And I would guess that means an algorithm applied the strike, unless some actual human beings at YouTube genuinely think showing a CNN clip is cyberbullying.
Get the fuck downstairs! You got a terrorist shooting class. Fake left.
Now, I have a history of getting a few fraudulent strikes on my channel. The point is, that video was correcting misinformation. That's what the whole video was me finding misinformation about COVID and correcting it, which in an ideal world is exactly what YouTube should want on their website. I don't want to take the route of not doing things like debunking COVID conspiracy theories, because I think there is value in having the debunks there for people who don't quite understand why things like the COVID vaccine are safe.
I actually predicted this in an earlier 2019 video, Gay Pride and Prejudice. There I outlined the reasons why YouTube's algorithm actually helps fascists while making it harder for those of us who try to educate people about them, because YouTube's algorithms don't understand dog whistles. Grayson Fritz and many of the other NAFB pastors who call for LGBT genocide publish all their sermons on YouTube. And there's also a lot more subtle harm hosted by YouTube. Last month, Vox reporter Carlos Maza got sick of shit from Blaze TV personality Steven Crowder, and like the queers at Stonewall, he finally fought back.
You're being given a free pass as a crappy writer because you're gay.
Code for rape, Mr. Queer eating chips on the Vox channel. Chip, 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 but you can eat just one. Like dicks.
Maza has been doxxed by Crowder's fanboys and all around been made to feel pretty unsafe by YouTube's refusal to enforce its own rules against harassment.
In a viral tweet thread, Maza complained to YouTube about this harassment.
Two gay guys sitting there eating a banana, we get the symbolism there.
YouTube responded to Maza by saying that while it found Crowder's language hurtful, he did not violate its policies.
Oh, okay, so you really are just an angry little queer.
Crowder's defense of his content is, "I'm just a comedian, man." Hey, great to meet you, Steve. From one comedian to another, you suck! Your joke writing is the comedy equivalent of this picture of escalators in front of a gym. How lazy do you have to be that the punchlines of your jokes continue to be, "Ooh, he's gay," and repeating tired stereotypes? Did you not graduate high school? Do you have that obscure medical condition that ages you, so you have the body of a 20-something, but you're actually 8 years old? You're being given a pass for being a shitty writer because you pander to conservatives. You don't have to build a rocket to Uranus to see why a greedy corporation like YouTube makes this kind of decision. In the internet or information age, this is the main problem with MLK's moderates or Twain's live silent assertion. Not so much individual people turning a blind eye, but large corporations choosing not to enforce their own harassment rules because it gets them advertising dollars. Hey, it's not YouTube employees who are harassing gay people. I mean, we're not encouraging that, but the content makes us money, so why should we enforce our own rules? You know what they say, rules are made to be broken. We all know YouTube is motivated by profit, but what a lot of us don't realize is how Nazis can and do exploit that. In response to the backlash from their handling of Crowder, YouTube promised to improve the enforcement of their policies, a task they seem to have lazily handed to an algorithm which got right to work, demonetizing a bunch of anti-Nazi channels. Mostly. YouTube has removed a few extreme neo-Nazi channels, but there are two other problems. First, as much as rational centrists say YouTube is just following profit, this isn't the first time that we've caught systemic anti-LGBT bias on YouTube's platform. Last year, their algorithm was demonetizing transgender topic videos while allowing anti-LGBT ads to play on the channels of queer creators. YouTube executives may not have intended the latter problem. It may have been a quirk of their algorithm, but they still denied it while allowing it to happen. And the second point may help to explain how their algorithm arrived at that bias. As I mentioned in a previous video, most of today's Nazis use dog whistles to hide in plain sight. Dog whistles are like the fine print of Nazi messaging. It's like the terms of service on some app you use. You don't read through the thousands of pages of legalese. You just click agree to create your account, and then Facebook is telling Russian hackers you're Jewish and offering them ways to advertise to people interested in the phrase, "Hitler did nothing wrong." But nobody reads the terms, so only Facebook employees and a handful of policy nerds know what power you've handed over to them. It's the same way with Nazi dog whistles. You don't have to be a Nazi to repeat the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. You might not know about 4chan, a website that allows absolutely anyone to post comments anonymously. For Nazis, being able to say whatever hateful thing they want in public without being personally identified is a consequence-free goldmine. So they use 4chan as a research lab for Nazi dog whistling memes. When an idea is well received by other Nazis on 4chan and it's apparent the public won't immediately recognize it as a Nazi meme, they roll it out to other places where you and I are, like Twitter, YouTube, and even offline. They did this with the OK hand sign, the flag of Kekistan, and the Honkler and Clown World meme that Jim referenced. It's how they stay ahead of people like the Southern Poverty Law Center who try to keep tabs on them and hold them accountable. There's a lot of support for legalizing marijuana, so people talk about it openly now, but it wasn't always that way. Throughout the war on drugs, people who wanted to get high kept changing the lingo to throw off the cops. You can't say Mary Jane anymore, the cops are onto that. Now you have to say reefer, then spliff, then weed, then chronic. When we're talking about modern Nazis or the alt-right, they're not worried about cops. They're worried about the censors on social media platforms like Twitter and YouTube. Here's an easy example. When you're composing a tweet, there's a button to include a GIF. If you search for Hitler, Nazi, or swastika, you don't get any results. But a quick search for honk honk produces that Honkler Clown World meme as the first result. Because they filter out obvious Nazi symbols, but they don't do the work to know who created the Clown World meme. So when Nazis post their videos brimming with alt-right dog whistles, YouTube doesn't bat an eye because they don't verbally say Nazi. But those of us who want to call them out for dog whistles have to say it out loud. To expose the Nazis, we have to say Nazi, and that gets us immediately demonetized while the Nazis stroll merrily along collecting ad revenue they can use for their Broadway musicals.
I know it's springtime for Hitler and Germany.
Getting back to how this affects you, so I had this probably algorithmic strike on the QAnon video. And having heard many horror stories about how YouTube enforces community guidelines, I didn't want to wait for the appeal process before making noise about it on Twitter. It should be pretty easy to understand why I have that response to a strike. Here's Vadim waving his arms on Twitter about getting the third strike on the same video where he's doing basically the same thing I'm doing, making comedy about fascists. And there's the fourth strike on the same video. Because YouTube refuses to even whitelist content they've already personally reviewed and approved multiple times. Vadim even mentions here that he's happy to delete the video. Put a pin in that, we'll come back to that. Because YouTube would actually punish him or you for deleting a video that they're already using to create unwarranted headaches for you.
Hi, Suris. We have reviewed your appeal of the following content. Video, the vaccine is the mark of the beast, and other stupid conspiracies I used to believe. Again, for anybody that knows about this fucking typeface here, this formatting, it's obviously sarcasm, okay? But they said, we reviewed your content carefully. Note, they said carefully. And they've confirmed that the content violates their medical misinformation policy. Here is another email from YouTube on May 13th. Hello, Suris. We have reviewed your appeal for the following content. Video, the vaccine is the mark of the beast, and other stupid conspiracies I used to believe. After taking another look, we can confirm that your content does not violate our community guidelines. Why is it that when my video is shown to not, again, evidence here, not violate your terms of service, why is it that 4 months later, you can then claim that it does violate your terms of service? What changed? It wasn't your terms of service.
Anyway, because I was working through some copyright issues, I had 3 different versions of this QAnon video that YouTube struck uploaded. And seeing how YouTube treats Vadim and others, I worried they would strike the other 2. And that 3rd strike would result in a channel termination, so I deleted them to try and prevent that. And I'm reasonably certain YouTube's punished me for it. If you haven't had a strike before, let me tell you, YouTube does not like giving support, or even talking to creators in any way. You get a short character limit to make your case, you submit the form, and a while later they send you back a canned response that either they're removing the strike or you can piss off.
Sorry, folks, we're closed for 2 weeks to clean and repair America's favorite family fun park. Sorry.
What? Clark, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. I just think somebody owes us an explanation.
In this case, they approved my appeal pretty quickly, and I have no idea if the noise I made on Twitter helped or not. So my channel had 1 strike on Wednesday, back down to 0 strikes on Thursday morning, and then Friday morning I was locked out of YouTube entirely with the permanent channel termination I was trying to avoid. This was, as I said, less than a day after YouTube apologized for bogusly striking my QAnon video, and because they hate talking to creators like you and me, of course they gave 0 information as to why. All you get is a canned message saying you're a bad person and we're not going to let you log back into YouTube for any reason for the rest of your life on all of your Google accounts. Some of you may recall Lance from the Serfs talking about this same thing.
Hi guys, it's April 1st, 2019, April Fools, and we got woken up today to find out that the Serfs YouTube channel has been deleted from YouTube. For those of you who don't know us, we are like a far left-leaning comedy channel that made a lot of videos exploring a range of issues, and we just hit 7,000 subscribers. We've been made YouTube partners, and out of nowhere, with no strikes or warning or anything, they just deleted our account. And the reasons they give you when this happens, they're obviously it's one of those generic corporate emails, but the reasons that we got are called deceptive practices, scams, and policies. And I went through this entire thing, it feels like 1,000 times already, trying to find something we had done. Content that is excessively posted, repetitive, and untargeted. Promises users they will see something but indirects them to stuff off-site, gets clicks or views or traffic from YouTube to get people to make them money, sends audiences to sites that spread malware, content offering cash gifting, voter suppression, content aimed at misleading voters about a time or a place or eligibility, incentivizing spam, comment spam, repetitive comments. I mean, the crazy thing about all these is we've never done any of these.
This is a bad business practice. This is a company doing everything it can to create angry workers. Nobody, not even mask-off fascists, should go from 0 strikes to being completely locked out overnight with 0 communication from the company. At a minimum, you as a creator should still be allowed to log in and at least review the strikes that led to your channel termination. People throw fits in brick and mortar stores when they're kicked out for entirely legitimate reasons, like protecting the literal lives of other customers by wearing masks during a pandemic. If a movie theater randomly threw people out all the time without telling them why, would you go there? No, they'd lose all their customers. Unfortunately, YouTube is the largest media company on Earth, and for now, none of their competitors can really challenge their dominance or put any pressure on them to do better. And of course, there are lots of other examples. Here's a guy I talked to on Twitter who said it took 5 months to get his channel back. Here's a guy from Startup Bros with his horror story.
What's up, my friends? If you are watching this video, then your YouTube channel has probably just been suspended. This just happened to us, and obviously it's a huge bummer. You're probably very angry right now, and it took us quite a bit of effort to get the channel back. The good news is we did get the channel back. It took like 15 or 16 days, so over 2 weeks.
Wilson, where are you?
And it took quite a bit of effort. We did a lot of research, and our approach changed a little bit as we did more and more research. So in this video, I want to help you guys out, anyone whose channel's been terminated. Let's talk about what we figured out, how our approach changed, and what we'd recommend for you to get your channel reinstated. Now, if you're a YouTuber whose channel hasn't been suspended yet and you've somehow stumbled into this video, I would highly recommend going through the next video I'm going to make, which is all about how to back up your current YouTube channel and mirror your content out to other platforms, just to make sure that YouTube doesn't have the ability to rob you of all of this time and energy and money that you're investing into their platform. But if you've already been robbed of all of that and you want to get your channel back, here's a step-by-step strategy, exactly what I'd recommend for you to give you the best odds at getting your channel reinstated. The first thing you need to do is figure out what exactly happened in your situation. YouTube's not going to give you a whole lot of information outside of the original termination emails that they give you.
I didn't want the channel termination to cost me any more time than it had to. That's why I deleted those other 2 versions of the QAnon video, to try and prevent exactly this. So I immediately went back to making noise on Twitter, and although nobody from YouTube replied, they did restore my channel about 10 o'clock the next evening. Now that's twice in about as many days that YouTube admitted they were wrong and shouldn't have struck or terminated my channel. That's a bad track record to start with, and this is where the story gets really bad for you as a fellow YouTube creator. The good news is YouTube restored my channel. The bad news is this new strike they added the day before, while my channel was suspended and I was completely locked out. YouTube claims this strike is on a video I deleted, but when they struck it, I was incapable of deleting anything. At the time, I wasn't even allowed to like someone else's video or leave comments. So the only way it's true this strike is on a video I deleted is if they combed through content I had previously deleted before they erroneously suspended my channel. But because they refused to tell me even the name of the video, I have no way of knowing what the hell is going on here. In the 7 years that I've been on YouTube, I've deleted a grand total of about 4 or 5 videos. And 2 of those, or about half of my deleted videos, are copies of that QAnon video that they already agreed they struck in error. So with just a little math, we can see that it's basically a toss-up, a coin flip, to determine if this new strike is one of those, and therefore probably also in error. But because I deleted those 2 copies before the channel termination, out of a reasonable concern that YouTube might also erroneously strike them, YouTube now tells me that I'm not allowed to appeal this new strike, even though I know it's probably an error. YouTube already apologized 2 days in a row for erroneously hitting my channel, and the only other content they're likely to have struck is the same content that they already apologized for erroneously striking. This is gaslighting, the way an abusive spouse would say, "I'm punishing you, but I won't tell you why, because you know what you did." I looked around for some other way to contact YouTube about this probably 3rd error in almost as many days, and the only other way to contact them is reserved for YouTube partners. and I'm still a little ways away from the 1,000 subscribers I would need to even apply for that. So I was left with waving my arms at them on Twitter like I'd already done for a few days. This time, YouTube responded. And you'd think after back-to-back apologies for mistreating me, YouTube would want to be a little careful this time. Maybe, at least for PR reasons, if nothing else, right? Nope. Here's Team YouTube telling me publicly on Twitter that it's their company policy to gaslight and abuse their creators.
We may issue a community guidelines strike on deleted content, and you can refer to our privacy policy for more info. policies.google.com/privacy. In the meantime, we'll send your video to our team and get back to you as soon as we have an update sent from my sales force.
Remember how Vadim said he'd be happy to delete that video that YouTube keeps erroneously striking over and over and over again? Because you'd think if he just deleted the content they've bogusly struck multiple times, if the content just wasn't there to be a problem, that would resolve the issue, right? Nope. If Vadim deletes the video, it will make the problem worse. And according to YouTube, by design. In this tweet right here, YouTube says that they would punish him for taking that step to protect his channel from bogus strikes. By still bogusly striking the deleted content and removing his ability to appeal. Along with, of course, removing any actual information about the strike, including the name of the video. So YouTube has removed any incentive we had as creators to clean up our content, and replaced it with an incentive to make sure that any possibly problematic content stays on our channel, just so that in the event we get a strike, we have the ability to appeal it. And that's the problem I ran into, because even though they won't tell me the name of the video, I know this strike is probably erroneous, because of the about 4 videos I have ever deleted, 2 of them are copies of this video that they already apologized for bogusly striking the day before. Team YouTube even replied to me again on Twitter, only to double down on their abusive behavior. So to sum up the problem here, you as a creator give YouTube almost, if not free labor every day. And YouTube's management in this tweet right here are telling you that on any given morning, you could wake up to 1 or more mystery strikes that they will tell you zilch about, not even the name of the video, and give you no ability to appeal. Because you supposedly previously deleted the mystery content they won't explain. So the message from YouTube is, we are striking you because we want to. And for support, you can go do unmentionable things to yourself. Long live the king. Or they may, like they did to the Serfs and to me and to a lot of other people, just remove your channel entirely, still tell you zilch, and expect you to read their minds to figure out how to write an appeal to get your channel back. Does this sound like a place you want to take your business? And maybe you think, oh, this doesn't concern me. I'm not making fun of fascists like Sam or Vadim. I only make Pokemon speedrun videos. Are you sure about that? Vadim keeps getting strikes over and over on the same video YouTube's approved multiple times, because YouTube refuses to whitelist it even though they've reviewed it and approved it at least 4 times. The first strike for me was literally on a raw CNN clip. Or consider this Startup Bros channel that couldn't possibly be more advertiser friendly. They lost their channel for 2 weeks.
When YouTube took down the definitive version of the Free Speech Extreme video, which is about how Capital has control over what we say, and they took it down supposedly for misinformation, I got pretty pissed off, as you might guess. Pretty pissed off indeed. Apparently, YouTube views the video as having made claims or implications about the presidential election result, which the video does not do. So I filed an appeal, which supposedly triggers a review process, but The appeal was really quickly rejected in a manner that implies no one actually reviewed the video. The fact that a critical video on the subject of free speech in a capitalist state was taken down for misinformation is a ridiculous irony. No one has to critically evaluate a video for it to be taken down, and no proof of human evaluation has to be given to reject an appeal of that decision. It just happens, and we're just supposed to accept it. I want to ask everyone who's still listening to go to the description of this video and click the tweet I've linked in the description. Please quote tweet it with your own message about what's happened here. Include the tag @TeamYouTube and a demand to reinstate the video. Really, the only option is to put pressure on them publicly.
I would like to continue to work within YouTube's terms of service and operate within the rules that I have agreed to when I became a creator on this platform. I don't want to have to rely on scummy, underhanded tactics to keep a channel afloat and alive. But YouTube doing stuff like this incentivizes creators to rely on those types of underhanded tactics. It incentivizes them to not upload for long periods of time, waiting for strikes to fall off while they put their content on other competing platforms. Things like BitChute, things like Odyssey.
YouTube hasn't earned any trust from us. They actively make things easier for fascists and harder for those of us trying to expose them. With their current track record, I wouldn't trust YouTube management to run a hot dog stand. But I did actually laugh out loud when the world punked me on the day YouTube terminated my channel with the headline, "Porn is everywhere."
Internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. Why do you think the net was born?
Anyway, this isn't my usual work, but I wanted to get this out because I wanted you and other YouTube creators to know how badly YouTube management is abusing us. Maybe if we put enough pressure on them, they'll fix their shit. And if you see this video first, at least you'll know what to expect, because their TOS doesn't tell you any of this. If I can help you with this, or with anything really, you can reach me on my Twitter @DataFaucet, and I'll do what I can. I'll put a link in the doobly-doo. Oh, and join the YouTube union, FairTube. I'll link that as well. Right now, FairTube says that they can't help with channel terminations, only with strikes, which is weird. YouTube will talk to them about strikes, but not about channel terminations for some reason. But I still think it's a good idea to be a member. It's a good way for us to put pressure on YouTube, hopefully. I accepted a while ago that YouTube won't monetize most of my work, so I really appreciate all of my patrons who help make this possible. Thanks again, I'm Sam. Let me know if I can help. We're in this fight together.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.